Welcome to the Blatchford Coaching Systems Podcast, where we share over 40 years of wisdom on the business of dentistry. We help maximize efficiency, minimize stress, and give dentists a better life-work balance.
Hey everybody, it's Ed O'Keefe, and I'm here with Dr. Bill Blatchford. This is our second interview. Hey, Dr. Bill, last interview we did, thousands of dentists have gone through it, called Escaping the Low Profit Trap, where you and I spoke about the high gross revenue practice that's not bringing in any money.
Right.
And this is almost kind of part two of the Escaping the Low Profit Trap, because it kind of segues into like one of the big symptoms or issues that a lot of offices face, which is the kind of myth that you have to be signed up with as many insurance companies or rely on insurance companies to send you patients. And it's almost like they get stuck in what's called the insurance trap in a lot of ways, writing off more dentistry or doing more dentistry, where, again, it's one of the causes of not being able to take home a lot of profit. Now, I think right now in our kind of economic times, our situation in life, and we're having a predictable net profit and growing cash flow in a practice is more important than ever. This was a topic that I really wanted to get you on a call and walk you through, because I know at Blatchford Coaching, it's one of the key things you guys help people do is transition the right way, because it could be done the wrong way. So let me open up. First of all, great to see you. You look amazing.
Good to see you, Ed. I'm looking forward to this.
So where do you want to start on that? I mean, let's just talk about the insurance problem.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem. And it's not just a problem for revenue. It's a problem in the way we practice dentistry. It's having an insurance clerk tell you what treatments you can do for your patients. It's having the insurance company get in the middle of your treatment planning.
Yeah.
I was speaking to my nephew, who's just 2 years out of dental school. I was speaking with him last week, and he's practicing in Arkansas, and he's working for a large DSO there. And he said, I really resent having a former dental assistant questioning all of my treatment plans, what he can do, what he can't do, and that sort of thing. And that's exactly what goes on. Now, if you and I were to sit down, and let's bring in a few MBAs, CPAs, and we were going to design the perfect business model, business model,
Yep.
It would be a dental insurance company. The thing is we would design this model where we go out and sell to employers to pay them premiums on their employees and promise them dental insurance. And of course, what we really are doing behind the scenes is we severely limit the amount of dentistry that they can have done. We limit we collect the premiums. I mean, we have unlimited money coming in, and then we set a reimbursement level that is way below the usual and customary in an area, maybe as much as a third lower. And in some things, we don't even cover them. With some items like the veneers, we say, well, we don't cover those. But then we go out, and there's one component of this whole business model. It's probably our trickiest part. Selling the policies to the employers is easy. Now what we have to do is we have to get a bunch of compliant, complicit dentists to sign up to accept those low reimbursement rates. And not only do they have to accept the low reimbursement rates, they agree in many cases that even if our company, you and I have the insurance company now, if we don't cover something like veneers, we're also going to set the fee for those, even though we don't cover it. And the dentist agrees that they will only charge the patient that fee. So it's a huge problem. And expenses are going up in practices all the time. I mean, the cost of doing business, the cost of hiring team members, hiring staff has gone up dramatically. And so everything is going up in cost. At the same time, because we designed this perfect business model, we're actually going to cut the reimbursement rate to dentists at this point. And that's going on all over the country. And, Howard Ferren, a good friend of mine, and I have done many lectures together. And he said this is, it's like taking the frog. You put the frog in cold water, gradually bring it up to a boil, and the frog will die.
Yeah.
But if you put the frog in hot water to start with, they'd immediately jump out. Well, this is what the insurance companies have done, Ed. It's exactly the same thing. As people watching this can tell, I've been at this for a while. And when I started my practice in 1970, which seems like a long time ago, there was no dental insurance. And actually, the insurance, the reimbursement rates at that time were better than the usual and customary. They sucked us in. And what happened was at that time, the overhead in a general dental practice was 45%. In other words, the dentist took home 55 cents on the dollar as net income. And so over the last 20 years, 30 years, the overhead has gone to 75%. So we take home 25% or 25 cents on the dollar. And the insurance company's answer to that, of course, is, well, we're going to bring you all these patients. Well, it's good because you have to see twice as many patients to have the same net income as you did when our overhead was only 45 to 50%. And so they've gradually, just like that frog in the water, they have lowered the reimbursement rates, and the dentists have become dependent on the insurance companies for a large part of their income, and they're dependent upon the insurance companies, and I've said this for years, is their marketing. So instead of having a good marketing program, what they do is agree to do what I call discount dentistry, which means I'll do the treatment, but I'll charge 1/3 less. And that's how we attract patients.
And you have a famous phrase of when you meet doctors who are writing off 300, 400,000, 500,000, even up to $1 million of dentistry. I think the phrase is like you say, "Oh wow, you have a really good marketing budget there."
Well, that's exactly what I've said. I mean, that is, I'll ask them how much they spend on marketing, and they say, "Well, I don't spend much at all on marketing." I say, "Well, according to your numbers, you're spending roughly 30% of your income on marketing," and they look at me puzzled, and they think, "Well, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, look," and the recent one that Duke and I ran into was a prospect whose the usual and customary fees, he's doing roughly $3 million, which is a good sized practice for a solo practitioner. And yet he's writing off, he's actually only collecting $2 million because it's all PPO, HMO type insurance plans. And so that he's spending $1 million on marketing, in my opinion, to bring in patients who only want to do what the insurance companies will cover.
So it costs. It's such an interesting paradigm how you just flip that, because it's almost like you're spending a 30-something% to acquire a patient, where if you did that in marketing budget, you would be like, I'm losing my mind. Why would I do that? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've pointed this out, and we've proven this over and over again to literally hundreds and hundreds of dentists to show them what they are actually spending on marketing. But Ed, and it's not just that they bring in the patient with the discounted reimbursement fees. They bring in the patient, and then the doctor and the team get into this insurance mentality that we can only present treatment that will be covered by the insurance company. And so, and of course, the patient does my insurance cover it? Well, that is a great question, and I think the question is, we need to answer that with is how important is that to you? I mean, that's the issue. The insurance, and by the way, the maximum amount insurance companies cover has continued to be the same for close to 40 years. It was when dental insurance first came to where I was practicing, the maximum was $1,000 a year. Understand, crowns were barely over 100 at that time.
Wow.
And so we could do fair amount of dentistry for a patient, and now the insurance companies have raised that by, some of them are up to $1,500 a year, but a crown is $1,500. So they have reduced that reimbursement rate. So again, like I say, perfect business model, and so and the dentists have bought into it. And I think the important thing here is that it takes a complicit dentist to make this model work. and it seems to be no problem to get.
Well, I want to get into like how you and your coaches and Christina, Dr. Brad, and that team like help transition your coaching clients safely to being a more healthier practice that's not so reliant on that. I just want to pause though for a quick moment and go a little deeper on. First of all, I think it's really great for you to share historically, like why this problem got worse and is getting worse. And so that for any of our dentists listening who are like, feel a little like it's not, in some ways, it's not your fault because it's the trap. It's designed to trap you into it. And then second of all, it's also creates a lens in which your team and your whole structure of your practice gets built upon, that if you pull that lens back, you'll notice that it kind of goes to our other interview, actually, where there's so much hidden profit and more opportunity in a less stress, healthier practice, less workday model, which I think we can cover. But I just wanted to kind of open that up briefly to, it's not like you're not a bad person if you got stuck in this. It's really just a different way of looking at the world.
Yes, I don't blame anybody. I mean, they make it real attractive. And there are a number of consultants, colleagues of mine, who actually encourage dentists to join as many PPOs as possible. There are bankers who loan money to dentists and recommend that they join as many PPOs, explaining that all the major employers in this area belong to a certain PPO, and the doctors who are successful are all doing that. Well, and that's all true. So it can be done. But I think it starts with, and we've helped a lot of dentists get out of this insurance trap, but it starts with a dentist who wants to get out of the insurance trap. Yeah. And so we don't take all of our clients and automatically say, you have to get out of insurance. I mean, that doesn't matter to us. Our job is to get what they want. But after working with several thousand dentists, I've found that in general terms, dentists want to provide ideal care for their patients. Now, I define ideal care as what we would do for our own family. No more, no less. And they want to be able to work in a rewarding fashion. I mean, emotionally rewarding and also financially rewarding.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, and of course, we teach at Blatchford, we teach life-work balance as opposed to work-life balance. In other words, we think life is first and we work to support it, not we work and then life is what's left over. That's not what we do. So that means working probably less days. It may be seeing less patients per day and yet doing more comprehensive care for patients. And that's what we find. And so how do you do that? Well,
yeah, because one of the stories is that your daughter, Christina, when she took over a practice, had, I think, 16
PPOs. Yes.
And you got her down to 2, but when you evaluated them, they were profitable for her to continue it or something like that, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so walk us through that. Like, where's the hierarchy and prioritization of questions on that?
So the practice that she purchased, just give you a little history on that, had been flatlined by the previous owner for 5 years. And she bought that practice in April of her senior year of dental school. And so she didn't take over till August 1st, but she went ahead and purchased it. And it had a lot of insurance. And the doctor was doing what we call single tooth dentistry, never did more than one tooth at a time. And again, that's because he hit those insurance maximums with one tooth. And so that's how they practiced. We grew that practice in the first year almost 30%. And we're talking about a dentist right out of dental school. So she's not doing anything fancy. She's doing dental school style dentistry, which is bread and butter. And
but with a great mentor, by the way.
Yeah, but we grew at 30% that first year. And by doing so, we did eliminate, I think we eliminated 14 of the PPOs. Now, the way those work, Ed, is sometimes you eliminate one, you actually eliminate several because they're tied together with different titles, they're all connected. So sometimes you drop one and all of a sudden you find out you just dropped four. So that doesn't make it easy. But as we did that, she was able to start, and she started with John Coyce. She started going through that program, learning to do better treatment planning. And she had team members. She had one team member in particular who kept telling her, Dr. Christina, our patients won't accept that because they're also insurance dependent. And we thought, well, let's just try it and see. And we started asking the question, which was most important to the patient, whether they were totally dependent upon insurance or were they willing to look at the possibility of more comprehensive care, helping them achieve long-term health goals, et cetera. Well, the first thing she found was because it was an older practitioner she purchased from, a lot of these patients were older and they didn't have insurance. And so it turned out it wasn't as big a deal as her team members thought it was going to be.
Isn't that interesting, right? That's such
yes. And so part of what happens here is that, the team members get it in their mind. I shouldn't say team. I'm not picking on team members at all. I'll include the doctor on that team. And they get it in their mind because they've practiced this way for so long that patients will not do anything beyond what their insurance covers. Now, a real simple example of that is a few years ago when cosmetic dentistry really hit its stride, we would bring new clients on board and sometimes quite productive practices. And I would say, so let's talk about ways to increase your revenue, which is what most of them want, without bringing on a lot more new patients. Let's just see what we can do with existing patients. Are you doing veneers? And the answer I usually, oh yes, I do veneers. And I said, well, let's take a look at the numbers. And so, with software, dental software today, it's a very easy scan to find out how many veneers you actually did in the last 12 months. And to find out some of these doctors were doing a handful. That's it. And I said, well, how many times do you present these? And again, it comes back, well, I don't present them because insurance doesn't cover them. And so it's the doctor's mentality, it's the team's mentality that I won't present something that insurance doesn't cover because I'm just going to get rejected. Well, it's interesting. And one of the things we do is, of course, we point out that your patients actually purchase a lot of things that insurance doesn't cover. And so it's a pretty easy thing to break that cycle. And if we have time today, I'll share some things with you on the keys to getting out of insurance. Actually, Ed, we have coined a new term. I don't think you've heard. We call it a non-restricted provider.
Okay.
And a non-restricted provider is, of course, it's the insurance companies again. The insurance companies and the government have taken the title of doctor away from all doctors, whether it be dentistry or medicine. Nobody's a doctor anymore. We're all providers. It's part of the kind of the insidious movement to conquer all dentists and physicians, I believe. But anyway, so we call our clients a non-restricted provider. Now that has a nice catch to it, and that term actually came from our consultants in our program, because how do you tell? What do you say? I mean, the question is on the telephone: do you accept my insurance? And that's a question that everybody asks. I mean, they all ask that question. And so our answer is, of course we do. We work with your company on a daily basis. However, our doctor is a non-restricted provider. Now, a patient doesn't know what that is, of course, but they generally ask. And we say, well, our doctor has had a lot of advanced training, and our doctor is not restricted to treatment guidelines put out by the insurance company. And therefore, we can prescribe for you the ideal treatment to achieve your long-term goals. And the patient said, oh, wow. I mean, the doctor must be something special.
Which is what they want anyway.
Exactly.
In most cases. That's what they want anyway, right? So that's such great languaging, by the way. And
well, I think it is. You see, the languaging is something that everybody needs to work on. And I think if I could back up a little.
I just want to because obviously we want people to, if they feel like this interview is valuable, to see if Blatchford coaching could get them to the next level. Like, obviously. However, if they took that one little snippet you just shared and was able to have their front desk shift the languaging to that, it would just transform the pre-frame of patients coming into the office.
Well, exactly. And you see, without some training and without the background that goes behind this, typically what happens is the doctor decides to what they call drop all insurance. And that's a bad word right there. So we don't drop insurance. We change our relationship with the insurance company. We don't drop insurance. I mean, but the call comes in and listen, this goes back even before that initial phone call. It goes back to, I believe, the vision that the doctor has put forward for their practice. And, there are 4 questions that we have the doctor answer, and it's who are we, what do we do, for whom do we do it, and why do we do it? And when you have answers to those questions, like we're the best dental office in the area, or whatever you want to say, we're a team of dedicated professionals, all that sort of thing that we say in vision statements. What do? We provide our patients an opportunity for comprehensive, ideal treatment. And for whom do we do it? And this is a key. For those patients who appreciate the level of quality that we provide. Because I will tell you, there are, and all the dentists listening to this know, and I recognize this, there are patients out there who only want to do what their insurance company covers. And that's okay. I mean, it's perfectly okay. And we're okay with that. It's just that we recognize that. And so when you accept the fact that we want to treat those people who appreciate the level of care that we provide, that does eliminate some patients. It's okay. You can't treat everybody anyway. So it goes back to that.
Yeah, that's actually great. It's great for your team to have. It goes
back to that vision.
Yeah.
And then once you get that vision in place, and the whole team, including the doctor, understands that and accepts that, then you start working on, okay, what do we need to change in the practice to do this? And one of the things, of course, is your marketing, how the marketing that goes out to the public looks. What are you advertising? I mean, really, what do you advertise? Are you advertising accepting all insurance plans? Are you accepting low fees? Or are you talking comprehensive care or ideal service? No. Dentistry has to get rid of the medical model, and we've got to step up the level of customer care, and that's the big part. I mean, the dentistry, I believe, dentists are very ethical people. And they provide pretty much the same level of care for their insurance patients as non-insurance patients. And that's where it cuts into the profit, which I'm proud of the fact that we are. But the customer care area is what makes the difference. Now, when that first call comes in, invariably, that person answering the phone needs to be trained. And they need to have scripts. They need to practice. They need to have a checklist in front of them. And they need to change the language, as you mentioned. Do you accept my insurance? And it's so easy. It's, oh no, our doctor has dropped all insurance plans. We're strictly a cash practice. And it's usually, thank you very much, goodbye.
Yeah.
That whole thing can be turned around with some very simple scripting that of course we accept. We work with your insurance company on a daily basis, and we'll do everything we can to maximize your returns on your insurance company. However, our doctor has taken a lot of CE, a lot of continuing education, and is actually what is termed a non-restricted provider. In other words, he's not restricted by the guidelines of the insurance company for minimum treatment. I mean, our clients all take a lot of time off because they're seeing those patients that are more appreciative of the quality of care they're receiving than they are whether or not their insurance pays for it. So that's a difference. But there are different metrics that we use in business that, and by the way, we all use different metrics. And one of the metrics that I see, I use the word facetiously because it's how busy am I? And there are a lot of dentists who equate busyness with success. How busy am I? And I remember when I first started my practice, I was pretty much in the same mode, I guess. You start a practice from scratch. Probably the first day that you have 8 hours of treatment to do, you feel successful. And I remember talking to an early mentor of mine. His name was Charlie Stewart, and he really helped me immensely. And I was telling him how busy I was. And he says, well, tell me what you got done today. What did you accomplish? Not how busy you were. And Ed, we've helped doctors change that relationship with insurance companies. And as Christina says often, she gets a call and said, I had to talk the doctor off the ledge today because he's not busy. He had a hole in his schedule. And yet his team says, doctor, but look at their collections. Look at the collections. Look at what we actually got accomplished. And so busyness is one thing. Results are something else. And I tend to measure results, that is in dollars, as opposed to how busy I am.
I love it.
And actually, our most successful clients, here's a metric you might want to think about, is that one night on a phone call, we call them our Big Docs Club. So we keep raising the amount, but at that time, the Big Docs, you had to be doing 1.6 by yourself in collections, not in production, but in collections. And these doctors go all the way up. We have solo practitioners doing basically between 3 and 4 million by themselves, no associate, with taking pretty much a week off every month, et cetera, working a 3 or a 4 day work week. And one night I was on that call and I said, one of the things I like to look at, and I was a pretty productive producer myself in the mid 80s. I broke $1 million when crowns were under $300. So that's at least a $3 million practice for a solo practitioner in today's.
Today.
And yet I could see the rumor in town among other dentists was, and I loved it, Blatchford's not very busy because he can get new people in tomorrow. And I could. I mean, it was good scheduling. So I threw the question out there to this group of doctors on this phone call. And I said, so if I called today and said, I'm interested in some, and I used veneers as an example, when could you see me? What's interesting, the most productive, that is in the highest collecting doctors on the phone call said, I'd probably get you in tomorrow afternoon. I'd probably see you tomorrow. And the lower producing doctors that I see, not in our Big Docs group, but I see doctors, doing in that, our floor is generally around that floor. That is the lowest producing practices we take in our program. Are doing about 600 a year. And generally those doctors are booked out sometimes a couple months. And so they love the busyness. They love to talk about how far out they're booked. That seems to be a measure of success, I guess, is I'm booked a month in advance. Well, I see that as a sign of poor scheduling.
There's an inverse relationship between the guys who are collecting the least and the busyness versus those that are collecting the most and their ability to get you in scheduling, which is an efficiency of scheduling, which if we back that up to another macro level, it's a framework of viewing the world differently, which is, right, I know, one of your big things. Wow.
Now, a lot of doctors, number one, don't have a goal. Their team doesn't, or if they do, the team doesn't know what the goal is. And so they're not booking efficiently. They're just booking to fill the spaces in the appointment book or the schedule, on the schedule. Am I booked a goal every single day? And if not, I'm working too many days. So we do have and then I think the other thing that, well, it's a whole nother subject. It's a whole nother subject. I even hate to mention it, but the doctor and the team need to spend time and actually learn how to present the value of dentistry. And we just did our first live Dynamo, which is our starting seminar. And we did it in Portland just last week. And we had 250 people there, and they're all new doctors. And a large portion of that 2-day conference is spent on how to listen. And I do say listen, not speak, but listen to patients to find out what they really want. And then once you know what they really want, present treatment that will accomplish what they want.
Yeah.
And be forthright. Find out what their budget is. Find out what they want. And so that's a whole nother skill that has to be developed if you are going to operate a practice in a non-restricted manner. Because up until now, you've presented treatment that's covered by insurance. And when I used to lecture all the time, not to our clients, but in dental meetings and that sort of thing, I would say if there was a sale at a Nordstrom across the street, Nordstrom sells men, women, and children's clothing, nice quality, they're known for their service. But if Nordstrom had a sale that on one particular rack, one particular department, all you have to do is come in twice a year. Anything on the rack is free. There's another department where it's 50% off. There's a limit, but it's 50% off. And another department, it's 70% off, again, with a limit. How good would you have to be at sales to be successful as a sales associate in a situation like that? And of course, somebody invariably says, well, there'd be a giant sucking sound at the back of the room. We'd all be over there at that sale. And I say, well, that's exactly what you have in a dental practice that's heavily dependent on insurance. They come in twice a year for 2 hygiene visits, absolutely free. And so the case acceptance is quite high. And then our restorative part, it's 70% off. Patient pays 30%. And for Crown and Bridge restorative, they only pay 50%. So how good do you have to be to sell products and services that are discounted that much? And the answer is, you don't have to be good at it at all. I mean, just get out of the way. But to sell something, and I use the word sell, and I know this probably turns off a few dentists, but we've got a discretionary product. It's a wonderful product, but we have to learn how to communicate the value of that product to the patient so they will spend that discretionary money on dentistry as opposed to other discretionary products. And that has been my message. Ed, that's been my message for 40 years. We compete with travel. We compete with sporting goods, boats, cars, remodels, everything else out there in the discretionary world. And dentistry, beyond the relief of acute pain and acute infection, it's totally discretionary.
We got to wrap this up. So do you have any last 1 minute? Yeah, I'll give you 1 minute.
I would just like to see doctors who are listening to this really take a look at their life and then how their practice supports that life. And if you want to be dictated how to practice by an insurance company, keep right in doing what you're doing. But if you're interested in getting out of that trap, give us a call. We can help you, because you don't have to practice under the guidelines of these insurance companies who have set up the perfect business model. Collect as much as you can and mark denied on every claim that's sent in. And so it's awesome. The perfect business model. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, hey, if you're watching this or listening to it on a podcast, I mean, very, very simply, you can go to Blatchford.com/ultimate, and you'll get a page where I have this interview as well as the ultimate insurance questions that the Blatchford coaches have to kind of analyze your practice to see where the opportunities lie. Also, if you're seeing this on the website, there'll be a link that if you want to schedule a call with one of our doctor coaches to see how they can help you. Zero pressure, zero risk on your part, and you can only get upside benefit. We really want to make sure that we can help you. And the doctors, I mean, that's the main goal, is can we get you results quickly? Other than that, Dr. Bill, thanks a ton. You've been a blast as always. And for everybody listening, thanks for your time. And we will talk very, very soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ed.
If you like what you heard on today's show and are curious about how our systems can be customized for your practice, schedule a call to speak with one of our doctor coaches. Simply go to Blatchford.com/call. No pressure, no BS, just an honest conversation to see if we can help you. Over the years, more than 4,000 dentists made this same call and discovered how Blatchford coaching transformed their profitability, their practice, and their lives. Go to Blatchford.com/call. Thanks for listening.